Two's company, three was a crowd, and now it's Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak who slug it out for the biggest prize in public life, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Sunak and Truss are the last two housemates in this reality soap opera. We watch as they fight it out over who's the most Brexity, the most economically competent, and the most conservative. Yes, conservative prime ministers that were actually conservative. Remember them? Very hard to come by these days. When Sir Graham Brady announced the final two at 4 p.m. today, just the right side of my afternoon nap, I have to admit that I breathed a sigh of relief. It meant that the ultra-woke eco-activist, pronoun-obsessed Penny Mordaunt, a woman who couldn't even bring herself to use the expression pregnant woman when drafting legislation in the House of Commons, is no more. She, her, they, them, whatever, has been sent packing. And your sisters, your mothers and your daughters can breathe a sigh of relief too. We won't have a vagina denier in number 10. And someone that, according to Lord Frost, goes AWOL more often than Lord Lucan. Now, I'm well aware that my preferred choice of Rishi Sunak is currently about as popular as a split condom in a brothel. The vast majority of you emailing my show are just not having this young banker. And the grassroots polling looks challenging for the big man. Well, the little man. They see him, Sunak, as a globalist, a corporate figure pushing for digital currencies and a cashless society. They see him as an out-of-touch, eye-wateringly rich man, not committed to living in this country, who turns up to a building site in Teesside wearing 400 quid loafers. Loafers! They're not even comfortable. What was he thinking? They always slip off at the back. Plus, a majority see Sunak as the guy that stabbed Boris in the front and wrote the cheques for the disastrous, failed experiment of lockdowns. But all of that, don't forget, was at Boris's request. He was the boss. Collective cabinet responsibility means they all own this debacle of a poorer, angrier, sicker and more divided country. Even Liz Truss remained in post as Foreign Secretary, sat around that cabinet table as the madness of lockdowns ensued. Which takes me to the odds-on favourite, the blonde bombshell herself, Margaret Thatcher Mark II, or so she hopes. The good news is Liz Truss is highly experienced. With 5 cabinet positions to her name, she's had some of the biggest jobs in government, including environment, justice, and as Foreign Secretary, she stood up to Putin following his invasion of Ukraine. Plus, she was the queen of the trade deal and very much the face of global Britain whilst Trade Secretary. I think she'd be a very capable Prime Minister. She's not woke, she's hardworking, and she's got an eye for detail. In Liz, I'm willing to trust. But those on the Tory right who are backing her so wholeheartedly should be careful what they wish for. By sacrificing backstabbing Rishi, as they see it, for loyal Liz Truss, they'll be backing a second Remain Prime Minister in 5 years. And you saw how that worked out last time. Is Brexit really in her bones? You tell me. And Liz is a true Conservative, given that she was previously a Lib Dem. How does that work? Here she is campaigning as a youngster for the Lib Dems. She loves a U-turn, doesn't she? Plus, I think we can agree that she's no Margaret Thatcher at the dispatch box. And during those TV debates, she was wobbly at best. Not because she's not bright or doesn't know her stuff, but she just isn't a great performer. And this takes me to my point. What is the real hope, the real ambition of those voting in this leadership contest? Is it to have a leader that they like? Someone who allies themselves with what they want to hear? Are they looking for a leader who they want to have a pint with? Or one who is a down-to-earth person? A man or woman of the people? Why? Why does that matter? Mark my words, all of that is a sideshow. You're only looking for one thing between now and September, the individual who can win the next election. The person who can keep the cervix-free leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, out of number 10. That's not just in the Conservative Party's interest, it's in the national interest too, in my opinion. Imagine 5 years of Prime Minister Starmer and a Britain-hating, lockdown-loving, mask and vaccine mandating, woke Britain-hating coalition of Labour, the SNP and the Lib Dems. Welcome to hell. Obsessing over Rishi Sunak's expensive loafers is just pathetic identity politics, where you have to be poor to understand the plight of the poor. Most MPs are deeply privileged people. None of them are really in touch with what ordinary people are going through. And it's my view the great people of this country would happily be led by a trillionaire as long as they have the right policies to improve their lives. Americans struggling financially didn't care about Donald Trump's wealth when they voted for change in 2016. Love him or hate him, old Sunak knows the Treasury inside out. He's a self-made millionaire who understands money. And for the next 2 years, getting the economy right is the only show in town. And he's a much better, more polished performer than his opponent. He nailed those TV debates. Remember when we last had a terrible performer in number 10, Theresa May? Be afraid. Be very afraid. Oh, and Sunak's a Brexiteer too, campaigning against Britain's membership of the European Union since, wait for it, his school days. If it's about winning the election, properly fulfilling the potential of Brexit and fixing our economy, Rishi might not be the popular choice, but he's the right one. There's no point having a leader you love who sat on the wrong side of those green benches.